GT Divide Podcast coming to another episode. I appreciate you guys rocking with me. Please make sure that you like and subscribe to the channel and share. First of all, happy Memorial Day. Thank you to all those that fought the wars so we didn't have to give us the freedoms that we have today. It's an important day to make sure that you recognize our military people that are out there dodging bullets and all that kind of stuff and making sure that we have the opportunity to be free and all the things that we have here in America. So we're definitely lucky to have people that fight for us. We appreciate you. We love you. We thank you for that. Today I'm going to talk about being prepared, the preparation for um, marriage, spiritual relationship. We're going to talk about what God expects from men. We're going to talk about what God expects from women. We're going to talk about culture, modern culture, how modern culture has infiltrated some of the sanctity and some of the things that we look for when it comes to being in. Because when you're in partnership, you're not just a partnership with the person; you're a partnership with God too. So there's three people in your marriage. There's never just two people in your marriage. And I think people think that, well, there's only going to be two of us. Well, two humanly bodies, yes, but there's three people in your marriage, and I think that that is something that we it's hard for us to see um, because of certain things in life, because of our own desires. The flesh kind of makes it hard for you to see that, and so we're going to talk about this today. So we're going to talk about the foundation for a man first of all. Um, so the foundation that God has laid out. I've seen so many podcasts where people talk about being a provider and being security for your family is, oh, that's not this and that and the other. That is the foundation. Those are the fundamental steps, right? Without the foundation, you have nothing else. If you don't lay the foundation of the house, you can't build the house up. So being able to provide and have provision and things like that. I mean, it comes from Genesis. I mean, when we start and we look back to what Adam was commanded, he's going to work by the sweat of his brow. So God commanded men to work. And that's part of what we do to make sure that we can provide for our families. We also have to protect them. If you can't provide and protect, make sure that they have a roof over their head and things like that, the necessities of life, you can't really teach them anything spiritually. Like you have to be able to show them that, hey, I can do the basic things that God has asked me to do, but before you can get into the other nuances. And I think people forget that, and that's widely overlooked. But I understand that, it doesn't mean financially. I think that people think that, oh, well, you got to pay all the bills. A provider, that doesn't mean that you pay all the bills. There's different levels in provision. Like, do you have stability? Do you give stability to your spouse? Do you give stability to your kids? I think that is a way that you provide. Provision is stability. And so you are able to lay down the foundations. Now, if you make 50K a year, your wife makes 50K a year, but you're laying down the foundation for your family, you're still a provider. That doesn't make you any less of a provider because your spouse pays as a man. So I think that our culture is counterintuitive to that, and I think that the part of the problem is that over time um, we've got a culture of wanting to be taken care of, or you have to make six figures, or you have to do this, or you have to do that. And so they've kind of changed the meaning of what it means to be a provider through the culture. God didn't change the meaning because the meaning is still the same and the word hasn't changed for over the years. So the only thing that can change the concept of a provider would be the culture. And so if you subscribe to what the culture says a provider is, then yeah, you're definitely going to fall short. And I think the majority of men would fall short. I mean, there's only like 1 or 2% of men that would fit. And, if you went down and you ask 100 women what they believe the provider is, and most of them come from the worldly view, they're going to say six figures, 6 feet tall, this and that. And so that's what they believe that a man's supposed to be. And God didn't say that. God never said that. There's never anything in the Bible that says that you have to pay 100% of the bills. It doesn't say that, right? And so I think that our culture has kind of gotten into the sanctity of marriage and kind of put their own twist in it. Obviously, they have when you got same sex marriage going on. So obviously, the culture can infiltrate what God has made if it's allowed to. And I think that that's something that we have to be careful of. And so, yes, in Genesis 3, when the curse of man came down for Adam, and what in his he first of all he wasn't protecting his wife. If Eve was protecting, he was protecting her, wouldn't be no serpent that was talking to her. So Adam wasn't doing his job then, right? And so security is important. It shows it right there in Genesis that security is important. Being able to protect your house from the entities and things that are outside from coming in. Um, that's important. We'll move on. So obviously, you want to be able to provide protection. And you're going to be able to have provision and kind of give stability, right? And then you want to also be a loving leader of your wives and your children, and stay and strong and courageous in the word and deed. So obviously, a lot of the biblical men that you see in the Bible, they are courageous. I mean, Peter courageous, um, David courageous. When you think about it, they stood on the word no matter what. And if God called them to do something, that's what they did. Whether it was going to be taking down Goliath, there's a lot of fear. A lot of men wouldn't have done that, or whether or it could be standing up to Queen Jezebel, like Elijah did. So you got to kind of understand that when you're called to do certain things, that it takes a bit of courage, and men are expected to be courageous. That's the reason why men go to the military and go fight wars. It used to be big back in the day, back in the like you go back to the 15 or the 1950s, 60s, 70s, where it was like masculine men. Like that's just the mindset. Like we're gonna go over here and fight the war so that way the women don't have to. I remember my older brother. He told it to me. He's like, man. I was like, man, why'd you get in the army, man? He said, oh, I got in the army so that y'all didn't have to. Like that's the mindset that men have, that you should have. And so you take on whatever it takes so that way your family doesn't have to. Um, I'm sitting at Ephesians 5:25 as we kind of get a little bit more word in as far as what God is expecting from men. It says, husbands, love your wives just as Christ loved the church and gave himself up for her, right? To make her holy, cleansing her by washing with water through the word. And so here it calls for you to be spiritual leaders of your wives, right? And when it talks about Christ loving the church, when I think about Christ loving the church, I think sacrifice. So obviously being a husband requires sacrifice. You have to sacrifice yourself. You have to sometimes you got to sacrifice your wants, your needs in order to ensure that she is taken care of, make sure that she got what she needs. And so whether it's, I mean, people get so caught up in like nuance and stuff like that that they forget that a lot of this is simple. A lot of this is simple, right? You have to sacrifice things that you want. You have to sacrifice who you are because that's what Jesus did. That's what Christ did for the church. He did the ultimate sacrifice for us. He gave his life, right? And so you have to have that mindset as a man, right? Well, dang, I got to make sure that, and it's not just to your wife, it's to your kids too, your whole entire family, is that you have to have the mindset of, okay, if I'm to love you like Christ loved the church, that's agape love. That's the ultimate level of love. That's love that's not conditional, right? So much love on the earth that's conditional is crazy, but this love is not conditional. There's no conditions to it. You're going to love that person no matter what. And I know that gets hard at times. Obviously, you want to be treated at X, Y, Z. I get it, but you're called to do something. And I think that our problem is that when we're called to do something, we want to put our own parameters on it and say, well, if you do this for me, then I'll do what God told me to do. You're supposed to do what God told you to do. Period. And so even as men, we struggle, we fall short a lot on that because we get so caught up in our needs. Me too, just like everybody else. We all get caught up in our needs and we forget what God called us to do, right? And it's about what God calls. This should be the number one on your priority list is what did God call you to do? So this is what he called you to be as a husband, right? We're going to go to Colossians 3:19 for a quick verse. So husbands, love your wives, do not be harsh with them. So you have to, now I struggle with this. I've struggled with this. I've had issues with this where it's like, when because I'm the type of person that likes to match people's tones and match people's attitudes. That God got to work that out of me because that's you're not supposed to do that. You're not supposed to match your wife's tone or her attitude. You're supposed to be able to reel it back in. Because men, we control our emotions better than our women. Like we understand that, and so the struggle in the relationship is being able to understand. Okay, they're getting emotional, they're getting amped up, but that means I got to keep it back here because ultimately you're the one that's going to bring it back down anyway. And so you might as well stay down and keep it down here and not be harsh, not be overbearing, not be over controlling. Um, you have to be able to lead without having to throw the hammer down. Now, if you've gotten to a point where you've gone so far where you don't feel like you don't have the ability to lead, then you got to ask God to help you, to guide you in the ways that He sees fit. Because if you allow Him to do it, then He's going to be able to show you or give you the wisdom that it's going to take to be able to make the right decisions when it comes to these things. So he calls for men to be leaders, but don't be hardcore leaders. Don't be overbearing, crazy. Don't be the type of dude that's got 20,000 rules and nobody can do anything right, right? You understand that you have to set the tone, but the tone doesn't have to be the same consistently all the time. You got to be able to switch into your nurturing side too, as men. We're gonna go to First Peter 3:17. I'm just like slowly making my way back here in the book. So First Peter, and it's gonna be 3:17. 3:17. Where are you at? 17. For it is better if it is God's will to suffer for doing good than doing evil. For Christ also suffered once for sins, the righteous for the unrighteous, to bring you to God. He was put to death in body, but made alive in the spirit. So it is better if it is God's will to suffer. So sometimes you gonna take on some suffering in a relationship. Um, it's not going to always be perfect. That the people aren't perfect, so you have to expect imperfection, and so we can't go into a relationship with the mindset of this is going to be perfect or this is like it's a work in progress. It's continually a work in progress when you get into a relationship. And as a man, we have to understand that. We have to understand that piece. We have to understand that we got to lead. We understand that we have to protect. We have to provide. We have to understand that we got to love, right? And love is a lot of things. I mean, you go to First Corinthians chapter 13, talks about love being patient, kind, not envy, not boastful, not prideful. Um, and I think the hardest part for men, and I can speak because I'm a man, the hardest part for men is the pride part. I think men struggle with pride more than women. That's my personal opinion. Some people may disagree with me, but I mean, there are women that struggle with pride, yes. But for the majority of the time, it's mainly men. And I think that pride tends to rear itself out as um, arrogance. Typically, when you deal with prideful people, they're arrogant, right? Um, how they speak, how they walk, how they operate, and you could tell in life, right? And so we have to understand that those things are internal characteristics that people have and that people can see. And so if you are called on it, and you will get called on the pride sometime, your wife will call you on the pride. You have to be able to be humble enough and have enough humility to understand, okay, this is something that I need to work on personally. And if you don't have a prayer life as a husband or as a significant other spouse, as a man of God, period, if you don't have a prayer life, it's gonna be tough to be able to have success in any relationship. You got to be praying always. And one thing that I've worked on personally that I believe to be the most important piece is pray that you yourself become, right? Pray that God can lead you to become what XYZ, right? If you want to be more nurturing, pray that God can help you become more nurturing. If you want to be more, if you want to be a better leader, pray that God will assist you in becoming the best leader that you possibly can be. Um, but pray that you become. And that's something that I feel like we don't do as Christians. We always want to pray um, to make other people fit our needs, but we need to pray that we can fit other people's needs. And I think that's a you have to be selfless as a husband. You have to be it's a selfless act. A husband and a father for sure being one of the most thankless jobs on the planet. Um, and you can see it by Mother's Day and Father's Day. Mother's Day, restaurants packed up. Father's Day, we got to cook. Now, granted, we like to barbecue, but when you just see it in the world too, and if you go to church, it's even in the church. Um, when you get to when it's Mother's Day, you get the great Mother's Day sermon. Father's Day is, whatever. You know what I'm saying? So we understand it's a thankless job, right? We don't do it because of the validation, right? We do it because that's in us. And I think that when it's in you, you can get better. Things can be brought out of you. You can grow. And those are some characteristics that I want to go over. Just kind of talk about being a man. Now we're going to go to the other side. We're going to go to Proverbs 31. And this is something that you hear people talk about on TikTok and all that stuff all the time. And I'm like, dude, the number one thing that I think is the problem is that people want more than what they deserve. They believe that they deserve this XY. You got dudes out there that are like, oh, I need a Proverbs 31 woman when they can't even be a spiritual husband. So how you gonna ask for something that you're not like you don't deserve that. Instead of asking God for something, like I said, ask God to make you to prepare you for whatever or to help you get better in XYZ whatever you may be struggling with. You ask God to get you better in these areas, then people will see the fruits of the spirit and the fruits of what you've been working on coming that resonate from you, and then you'll attract the right person. So if you're looking for somebody and you want to attract the right person, you don't want to be handed the right person. And so Proverbs 31 talks, and we're gonna go to verse 10. Um, this is a depiction of a certain type of woman. And I think that people get so enamored with a Proverbs 31 woman that they don't even look at themselves and examine themselves to make sure that they deserve a Proverbs 31 woman, which the majority of people don't. But this is a depiction of the noble character, right? The virtuous woman that is spoken of. And Proverbs is so good of a book that you can just get wisdom on life. This is wisdom, the spitting wisdom. So you're going to get the opportunity to see what a virtuous woman is, and then you're going to get the opportunity to see what the other side of it is too. But I'm going to read real quick. So, wife of noble character, who can find, right? Who can find means that is not the norm. When it says a wife of noble character who can find, what he's saying is that's rare. This is rare. This is not something that just grow on trees and you just it's not like money, just have a lot of it, right? This type of woman is rare. When you come across her, you gonna know though. She is worth far more than rubies. Her husband has full confidence in her and lacks nothing of value because the value is her because of her virtuous ways, right? So he lacks nothing of value, not because he has everything, right? But because he has her. So he lacks nothing of value because he has her. I wish that they would just put that on there and say that, but that's huge. That's a huge verse. Full confidence in her. So he's confident that she's going to do what she says she's going to do. She's going to operate the way she says she's going to operate. Her words and actions match. Her heart, her character is all in place, and so he has full confidence in her and lacks nothing of value. That's huge. Lacks nothing of value because she is all the value that he needs, right? She brings him good, not harm, all the days of her life. She selects wool and flax and works with eager hands. She is like the merchant ships bringing her food from afar. She gets up while it is still night. She provides food for her family and portions for her female servants. So she's taking care of everybody. I mean, this is the type of person that is giving, generous, continuously. It's just a great heart, giving, caring. That's the type of woman that they're describing here. Um, she considers a field and buys it. Out of her earnings, she plants a vineyard. Out of her earnings. It does not say out of his earnings, out of her. So she's earning too, while still taking care of business and handling what she needs to handle. She sets about her work vigorously. Her arms are strong for her task. She sees that her trading is profitable and her lamp does not go out at night. So when you think about the light, right, being the light, her lamp does not go out at night. It means that she is the light in the darkness, right? And so when you think about men leading and all this and that, but if you're a man and you don't have that candle, that light, you don't know where you're going when it gets dark, right? So she is the reason why he can stay out of darkness because her lamp never fades. Light is always shining, and you can and it's the resignation. It's the aura that comes from a person like this, where I mean, this is deep. Like this is deeper than you may think, and this shows the value of a woman right here. Like when you think about it, because you think about the light. I do think women are a light that God has put on the earth for a reason, right? That candle that continues, right? Because sometimes as men we get so worried about everything that's going on out there that we forget that the light, the direction. Because when you think about it, when everybody's in darkness, you're seeking light, right? So her lamp never goes out. So he's always seeking her, even when he encounters darkness, he is seeking her because he can see her light. That's huge. In her hands, she holds the staff and grasps the spindle with her fingers. She opens her arms to the poor and extends her hands to the needy. Generous. This is a generous person. Opens her arms to the poor, extends her hands to the needy. She is the type of person that gives to people that are in need. And that's just her character. This is when you think about it, this is speaking of characteristics of a person. This is speaking of the essence of who the person is. And it's great depiction. Like I mean that right there is huge. And you're going to see generosity in these verses a lot because a person like this is a giver, not a taker, somebody that gives. Um, they can teach you how to give because men naturally we don't like to give. I'm not gonna lie, I don't like to give. And so you get a person that is generous that exudes what it means to be generous. Like that's huge. That is 100% huge. When it snows, she has no fear for her household, for all of them are clothed in scarlet. So clothed in scarlet, she's making the clothes. Like she is hands on making sure that they have the necessities, right? It's huge, huge. She makes coverings for her head for the bed. She is clothed in fine linen and purple. Her husband is respected at the city gate, where he takes his seat among the elders of the land. She makes linen garments and sells them, and supplies the merchants with sashes. She is clothed with strength and dignity. She can laugh at the days to come. She speaks with wisdom, and faithful instruction is her tongue. So she's a wise person. This individual is extremely wise, and faithful instruction means that like whatever God instructs her to do, she will speak it. There's no questions about it. You gonna know. And this, I mean, when you think about being set apart, when you think about exhibiting Christ, this is the pure proof that a woman can literally exhibit Christ in ways that men can't. In ways that men can't. There's a reason why God put women on the earth for us. She watches over the affairs of her household and does not eat the bread of idleness. So she's not idle. Um, Idleness means that you're just like coasting. This type of person does not coast. This type of person is always looking for the next. What else needs to be done? What else can we get done? Okay, we're on the move because it's a thankless job. Like being this type of woman, being that type of mom, that type of wife is a thankless job where you always have to. There's always something to do, right? Never idle. Always something to do. It's a thankless job. I mean, we don't tell them enough that we appreciate them. I mean, it goes the same for both sides, men and women. Her children arise and call her blessed. Her husband also, and he praises her. Many women do noble things, but you surpass them all. So many women do know that it's saying that this person, the level of noble that this person has, of the level of generosity, of love, of care, exudes that of the average person out here on the earth. Like this person stands out from the rest, stands out from everybody else. I mean, if we could literally just do a whole day on this type of person. It's crazy. Um, Charm is deceptive and beauty is fleeting. But a woman who fears the Lord is to be praised. Honor her for all that her hands have done, and let her works bring her praise at the city gate. So honor her, right? If when you get a virtuous woman, somebody that exudes generosity, love, care, grace, all those things, um, she's praised because God, she fears the Lord, and so the Lord has worked in her to get her to this level. And this is something that is rare. This is gonna be rare, just like a biblical husband is gonna be rare. So is a virtuous woman. I mean, this is a rare thing. But what you'll find is that most men don't understand what it means to be a biblical husband, and most women don't understand what it means to be a virtuous woman. Like if you ask people at the church, we can go ask them, have you read Proverbs 31? Ask the women at church, have you read Proverbs 31? No, they have no idea this even exists. And this is a description of what they're called to be, but they don't know it exists. You go talk to men. Oh man, dude. I mean, I kind of read about Adam and Eve. I kind of read about what Adam, what he did, but Eve did it, right? Eve ate the apple, yada, yada, yada. When men sit here and blame Eve, like, yeah, Eve ate the apple, we get it. But that's because Adam wasn't doing what he's supposed to be doing. Adam was not protecting his wife like he's supposed to. And so she was easily deceived because he was out of place, right? We're called to stand watch as men, right? We have to stand watch. What does stand watch mean? You're watching for the enemy. You have to know who your enemy is in order for you to watch for him. And maybe Adam didn't know, I don't know, but he didn't do what he was supposed to do in that time. And so now men fell, not because of Eve, because Eve, God didn't tell Eve not to eat the apple. God told Adam. And then Adam was in charge of making sure that Eve didn't eat the apple. So he didn't do his job. And so you got men that don't even really interpret that verse correctly because they want to blame women for everything. I don't think you can blame, at the end of the day, I think that the blame goes back to you. And most everything, the blame always goes back to you. But that's a virtuous woman. I mean, if you guys want to read this, Proverbs 31, starting verse 10 through verse 31, uh, that's a description that is just like, it touches my heart every time I read it. Like, that's a description of an individual that literally exhibits what Jesus Christ is. Like, if you want to talk about walking step by step with Jesus, that's the depiction. That's what I would picture it being like. Generous, giving to the needy, making sure that her family is good, um, speaking wisdom, giving wisdom, imparting wisdom to her family, to her husband, to her kids. That's deep. That's something that you see rarely. That's a rare find. If you find that, It says if you find a wife, you find a good thing. That's the type of wife that if you find that type of wife, boy, you better hold on tight because it's not a lot out there like that. We're gonna go to Proverbs 5 real quick. So we get to see. We've kind of looked at men. We've examined men on both ends. We're gonna examine a little bit more on men here in a little bit because there's some things that I think in Proverbs 5 that we can speak to men and say, man, we can see that too. Let me see. So this describes the other side. So you got the virtuous woman, Proverbs 31. When I say read Proverbs, if you just read Proverbs from the first book all the way to the end, chapter 1 all the way to the end, you will be granted wisdom. There's so much wisdom in Proverbs that people don't talk about. And it's crazy to me that people don't talk about it because I mean this is literally giving you the playbook for a successful life, a successful relationship or marriage, successful fatherhood, successful womanship, being a woman of Christ, successful being a man of Christ. It gives you so much wisdom. It's crazy that people don't talk about Proverbs as much as they should. But in five, and so in chapter 5, it talks about it's describing a woman. It calls her an adulterous woman, right? Um, let me read. Um, my son, pay attention to my wisdom. Turn your ear to my words of insight, that you may maintain discretion, and your lips may preserve knowledge. For the lips of the adulterous woman drip honey, and her speech is smoother than oil. When you think about oil, that's smooth as heck. But in the end of it, she is bitter as gall, sharp as a double-edged sword, and her feet, this is huge, go down to death. Her steps lead straight to the grave. She gives no thought to the way of life. Her paths wander aimlessly, but she does not know it. I mean, I can go on deep, but we're gonna stop right there. That's deception. That's what deception looks like. That's she's trying to get you to do some things, to go some places, and a lot of people like this are very very in tune with like looking good. They want to look good because the number one they know men are visual, and so you men you gotta be careful because there are people out there like this. They will talk to you and they will butter you up and they'll look good, and then you'll be like, man, and the next thing you know you're on your way stepping to the grave because it says one of her feet are literally leading down to death to the grave. And so you encounter this type of person, and you once you know what you encountering, um, hopefully you get there before death comes to you because literally says her steps lead straight to the grave. And so a woman like this can lead you straight to death. And it speaks a lot. I mean, there's a lot of warnings in the Bible about this type of woman. I mean, when you think about Jezebel in First Kings, how she had Elijah ready to kill himself, ready to take his life. That's that's the type of woman I think of when I think about this. Is somebody that's uh, extremely manipulative, and lies a lot of deception, a lot of deceit, like that type of thing. And so that's what you get. That's the opposite of a virtuous woman. That's the other side of it, right? And so there's some discernment involved with encountering these type of people because a virtuous woman is not going to be the most attractive woman on the planet. Like that's not going to be the woman that looks good, puts on makeup every day, and is out there making sure that she's pristine, clean. That's not a virtuous woman. A virtuous woman is about the character of a person, right? Now, the other type of woman that you encounter is more so about the appearance. All right, it's about acting a certain way. It's about being a certain way when their character is actually just wicked. They're just wicked inside, and that's why it says her feet go down to death. So literally, as you encounter this person and you spend time with this person, it is leading you on a path to death. And so when you think about it, most men would probably fall victim to this type of woman because most women aren't virtuous. Most women on earth aren't virtuous, just like most men are not the biblical husbands that we aspire to be. It's a work in progress, right? But you have to be careful what it is that you're looking for, right? Are you looking for somebody who speech is like oil, smooth, right? Speaks like honey, that looks good all the time, hair done, nails done, makeup on point, all that jazz. Like is that what you're looking for? Are you looking for the outward appearance, or are you actually judging the moral character of a person? Um, Now, people can say that their morals are good and all that jazz, but just because somebody say it, don't mean it is. You can tell by how a person walks and how they operate if they are of good moral character. And so that's something that as men, we have to be better at seeing before we get to the covenant of marriage. Because you get to the covenant of marriage with this person, you're going to be led to death. Just like, and this person can be a man too. I don't see this as just a woman. I think that you can have men that will look good, got their chain on, they drip as they say they drip as nice, that's what they say. And they got all this drip, they're 6'5", 6 pack abs, all that stuff, thousands of dollars and all that jazz. And then you get a woman who may have virtuous traits. But she gets in, she interacts with this guy, and now that done jacked her all the way up. And his feet as well can lead straight to death. You're on your way to the grave. And so you have to be careful. Just because somebody says nice things and smothers you with all these compliments and all that jazz, you gotta be careful. There are people out here that are using that to take God's people and lead them to death. Satan is not stupid. Satan will literally put somebody in front of you that is everything that you want, and that person will lead you straight to death. Because Satan ain't stupid. We think Satan dumb. We be thinking he out here to go. He gonna give us the red horns. No, 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 no. He's gonna give you exactly what you're looking for, and then that will lead you to death. So we have to have discernment. We have to be vigorous, and we have to look at moral character. When you look at the virtuous woman, when you look at the biblical husband, they're speaking about moral character, about the characteristics of a person who operates in Jesus Christ as such a way. Now we're going to go to Proverbs 30:20. Proverbs is, man, we could stay in Proverbs all day. Like I would stay in Proverbs all day. I love Proverbs. It's the book of the Bible that's really helped me the most over the past like 3 or 4 years. It give like I said, just the amount of wisdom that you get from Proverbs is crazy. I mean, absolutely insane. And I remember my mom was telling me about Proverbs. She's like, man, if you want wisdom, you go to Proverbs. You want life lessons, go to Proverbs. And so we're going to continue in the life's lessons. We're going to go to chapter 30, verse 20, I believe. Let me look. So this is talking about the same type of woman. And like I said, I don't think it's just a woman. I think men can be like this too. The ways of an adulterous woman, she eats and wipes her mouth and says, I've done nothing wrong. Right? I've done nothing wrong. So there's a lack of accountability, right? This type of person, it's in their character to not be accountable. Um, and that, like I said, it goes for men and women. And so you have to be able to discern. You have to be able to be intellectually smart, intelligent, and dealing with these people. These people will not take accountability. They will do the same things over and over again. Um, Unrepentant sin is what it's called. When you sin and you just keep on sinning, sinning, sinning. Just because these people, just because you dress it up nice, right, doesn't mean that it's actually good. Sometimes you can dress it up nice and it actually not be good at all. There's masks. There's a reason why masks were created. Masks were created to cover something up. And so the adulterous woman that's talking about here, um, says that I've done nothing wrong, that's a lack of accountability. That's all it is. Somebody who can't take accountability for their actions, right? They typically have the do no wrong attitude, and so they justify everything that they do. You get a person like this, whether it's a man or a woman, they will find ways to justify sin. They will find ways to justify their actions, right? It's all about justification. It's not about repentance and accountability. And so it's a characteristic. It's a character flaw. It's a character issue when somebody can't take accountability for their actions. And so you have to be able to see that. You have to be able to see that because it's out there, right? The majority of people are going to fall under this category as opposed to the virtuous category. Um, I think it was a who was the pastor that said it? Might have been Philip Anthony Mitchell that was speaking about Proverbs 31. Um, and he was saying, he was like, man, maybe like 1, maybe 2% of women are virtuous like that. That's not be, and it's because of the culture. The church should be able to get men to this level of being a husband where it's like, dude, this is the type of husband I want, biblical, spiritual husband. And they should be able to get women to that level of virtuous, right? The problem is what we just talked about in Proverbs 30:20. I've done nothing wrong. Accountability. So when churches aren't necessarily holding themselves accountable, first of all, but their job is to actually hold their people accountable. When you lead people in Christ, you have to hold them accountable. If you don't hold them accountable, then you just let whatever in, then whatever is going to come in. Um, I watched the movie Sinners not too long ago, and it was talking about how they had to welcome sin in. They had to welcome the evil in, like they had to let it in. And that's the problem is that when you don't have accountability, evil will creep in 100%. And so that's where it starts. It starts with us holding ourselves accountable to the point where evil can't even creep in. Because if you can't hold yourself accountable, then trust me, it'll be all kind of beings and stuff going on inside your realm that you don't want to have inside your realm. And so that's the other side, right? And when you look at, I know it says a adulterous woman. It could be a man too. It could be a man. There could be a man that won't take accountability. There are men out there that won't take accountability. There's men out there that won't. And to me, that's the thing about men, that you have to be able to take accountability to even be a man. Like, we are literally been placed with so much. We are in charge of so much, right? It's not. I didn't say control. I didn't say we control. I said we are in charge. So when God entrusts things to you, you're in charge. So we're entrusted with so much that if you can't be accountable, you can't really be in charge. And so that's what happened with Adam back in Genesis. He was, I've done no wrong. He had that attitude. I'm not trying to be accountable. He had that attitude so much that he was hiding from God when God came down. I'm like, why are you hiding? He hid, man. He hid. He could, as a man, you stand and step out on that. Hey, I messed up. But because he had the mindset of not of a lack of accountability, he was hiding behind trees trying to hide from God. And that's the thing, is that people like that, you can't hide that from God. God knows exactly who you are. Um, you can trick people, but you can't trick him. And so now I want to talk about so there's the next piece I want to talk about. So I went over biblical husband, I went over virtuous woman, biblical wife. Um, there's a conglomerate of people that have this mindset of being God sent. Here's what I will tell you: if you're not a virtuous woman, you weren't God sent. Yeah, I mean, if you're not the biblical husband, what God calls you to be, you weren't God sent. Because God's not going to send you something that's half over, right? God ain't going to send you something that's He's not going to send you a woman that's not virtuous. Like, he not going to do that. Now, there are times in the Bible where um he did send people. He did, but you got to think about, who was he sending? Look at who he was sending. He was sending the virtuous woman. He was sending the virtuous woman to the man that was prepared, right? Because she had a mission. Because of her virtue, she was able to take people out of darkness in the light, right? Because that candle that is spoke about in Proverbs 31, that never, the light never goes out. The light is always on, it's continuously on, right? So when God does it, there's a level of perfection that's behind it. And so, most people will think they're God sent. I don't know. I would never think I'm God sent to anybody. That would never be the mindset that I've taken to anything. Um, that to me is just self righteousness, is what it is. Oh, I'm God sent, or God sent me to you, and you messed up and this and that. Because number one, if God sent you to somebody, it's not going in. Because if God created it, dude, it's not going in. If God's hand was on that, it's not going to end. And so people will be like, ending marriages, like, "Wow, was God sent? You must not have been God sent. If you was God sent, the marriage wouldn't end it, right?" So don't ever have the mindset. Don't be so self righteous that you think that you're like this perfect person if you're on the other side of what God created. Because God created marriage till death do us part. And so you can't say you God sent to somebody and y'all divorce. Like, that's not how it works. If you say you God sent and you still in the marriage and you working on it, there's a possibility that you might actually be. But for people that get on the other side and be like, "Oh, now I was God sent, this person did this and that and the other," I'm like, dude, you're not God sent if you're divorced. Like, that's not, God not gonna send you divorce. Like, that's not what, that didn't come from him. Because you got to think about God. He's perfect. Nothing imperfect gonna come from him. Like, that's not how he operates, right? So if he sends it, right, it was meant to be sent and it's meant to stay. There's staying power because of that. But I think that when you get into marriage, you have to focus on how to become a better you. How do I become a better me? How do I become that husband, that biblical husband, that biblical man? How do I become that virtuous woman? What do I need to do to become generous? What do I need to do to impart wisdom on my kids and my husband? Like what do I need to do as a husband to lead my family spiritually? What do I need to do as a husband to be able to protect my family, to make sure that the evils that are outside don't come inside the house? Like what do I need to do? That's the question that you have to ask yourself if you want to be successful in relationships and marriage when it comes to the spiritual realm, when it comes to being the type of relationship that God desires. God does not desire you to ask for somebody else to be perfect. You need to ask for yourself to become whatever it is that you feel like you need to become. Ask for yourself that you can work on whatever things that you may struggle with. Like if I struggle with lust, I need to ask for God's guidance. How do you help me fix this? If I struggle with addiction to alcohol, I need to ask God, like, how do you help me? Like, help me overcome this addiction that I have. Help me overcome this mindset that I have. Help me overcome the arrogance that's inside of me. Help me overcome the pride that's in my heart. Like help me overcome these things, right? That's the type of thing that you need to do because you have to better yourself. For the marriage to get better, it starts with you yourself, not with your spouse. It starts with you yourself. So if you want to better the marriage, you got to better yourself. And I think that it's easy to want to better somebody else, or it's easy to want somebody else to match whatever levels that you expect them to match or to be whatever you want them to be, right? It's easy to change situations. People will change situations constantly. Well, you got people out here that will literally date a person. Well, I'm just going to change the person. I don't want to change myself. I'll change the person because they're searching for a person that's going to fill their needs as opposed to becoming a person that fills their own needs so that way, when the right person come along, you don't need them to feel anything. You allow them to be who they are, and then you grow together. And that's the piece that people forget. That it starts with you. The buck stops at you. At some point, you got to be accountable, and that's just a lack of accountability. People don't want to be accountable. They would rather get handed something. And God is not just handing stuff out. If you can't be accountable, God not gonna give you nothing that He's gonna give you exactly what you deserve. I'm a believer that you get what you deserve. Just because you think that you deserve more doesn't mean that you actually do deserve more. There's a difference between what you think and what is. People will get in self righteousness is it's I mean if you look at pride on the pendulum, self righteousness goes underneath it, arrogance goes underneath it, and a lack of accountability. Those three things go underneath pride. Like that's the posse. That's the gang right there, and they roll together. And so we have to ask God to fix us and stop asking God to fix somebody else. God does not need to fix somebody else for you. He needs to fix you for you, right? You have to allow him to fix you for you. In order for you to do that, you got to admit that you need to be fixed. It all starts with accountability. Everything rolls back to that, right? A virtuous woman is accountable, right? A biblical husband is accountable, holds himself accountable, holds himself to a high moral standard, holds himself to a high standard in general, right? He's going to do whatever it takes for his family. He's going to lead spiritually, right? He's going to try to better himself. If he's not trying to better himself, then what is he doing? You're not where you need to be. You still have to keep moving on. You have to keep moving forward. You have to keep pushing. And so the reason why I think most relationships fail is because people don't want to work on themselves. They want the other partner to be this or they want the other partner to be that. If you sit there and you want your significant other to be something, if he's not being it or she's not being it, it's because that's not what you are. I remember Mr. Brown was talking about it. He said he said he was asking somebody, he's like, well, what do you want in a man? Write down what you want in a man. And she wrote everything down. He said, become that. He said, you become that because you become that with which you soul desire. So if you desire a virtuous woman, you got to be that type of man. You got to be on that level to get a virtuous woman. That's the reason why there's few and far in between. Both ends of the spectrum, men and women. You're not you want this significantly biblical husband that just exudes everything that Jesus. Well, you got to exude everything that Jesus is representing. If you can't be out here exuding what the world represents and think that you're gonna get this biblical husband. You can't be out there as a man in the world. You're doing what the world's doing, and you think you're gonna get a virtuous woman. That's not gonna happen. I'm gonna be honest with you. It's not gonna happen. That's not how it works. We have to understand that we have to fix ourselves. We have to work on ourselves. We have to become better ourselves. And it don't even have to just be with relationships. It can be with friendships. It can be with as a son, as a daughter, as a mom, as a dad, whatever it may be, as an aunt. right? You have to be asking God to better you. How do I become better myself? Your prayer should be, how do I become better myself? What are things I need to work on? You know what you need. Most people know what they need to work on. It's just a matter of being able to admit it. And I don't know why you would. There's only if there's anybody to admit the things you need to work on to is definitely God, because He already know. So all you're doing is telling Him what He already know. That should be easy. I'm gonna tell God what He already knows. Okay, He already knows it. He already knows what you need to work on, right? He sees you better than anybody else does. And so, and when it pertains to spiritual relationships and becoming a virtuous woman, or the type of wife that I mean, it says that. I mean, let me go back to Proverbs one more time before we get out of here. This is how crazy it is, and I don't know why we don't talk about this in church as much. A wife of noble character who can find, and with a question mark, and it's a question mark at the end. This is rare, and I think that people think that when the Bible says, "He who finds a wife finds a good thing," he who finds a virtuous woman finds the greatest gift given to the earth. Like, this is the greatest gift given to the earth. A woman who finds a biblical husband that literally walks step by step with Jesus Christ, that is the greatest gift that has ever been given to the earth. That's what you should aspire to be, right? Don't aspire to be half or a quarter or 10%. Aspire to be 100%. You may not get to 100%, but you know what? You're gonna get up there. You're gonna be up there. You're 100% gonna be up there. So if you haven't read Proverbs 31, read it. It's there. I mean, I honestly, it says a virtuous woman and all this, but I think that men can exhibit those same characteristics: generosity, love for the needy, not afraid to feed the poor. Like, she feeding the poor. She don't. And you notice it didn't say that she's feeding the poor with her church. She didn't need to have the church's name on her feeding the poor. That's who she is. That's not who she's trying to represent. There's a difference between who you are and who you're trying to represent. Some people will try to represent and have this image and look good, but that's who she is. She don't care. She'll go feed the needy on the corner, and nobody will know that she did. That's the type of person. That's when you know that that's inside a person's character. And so when they'll do stuff and they don't need nobody to see it. Some people do stuff and need people to see it because that's not who they are, right? They're trying to act like they're something that they're not. So they need people to see actions that they do, right? This type of person don't need that. That's who this person is at the ultimate levels inside their heart. And so, yeah, if you ever read Proverbs 31, please read it. It's a great book. Um, Men, read Ephesians 5:25, Colossians 3:19, 1 Peter 3:17. Read those verses; they're huge. And then pray that God may fix the things in you that need to be fixed, so that way you can become a better version of Jesus Christ as you walk this earth step by step with Him. This is GT the Vibe Podcast. I appreciate you guys rocking with me. Make sure that you like, subscribe, and share. I will see you guys on the next one. I'm out.